Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Burnt Pancakes podcast. I'm your host, Katie Fensky, and I'm reminding moms that everyone burns their first pancake. Now, today's episode is one that I think a lot of parents are going to want to hear, especially if you've ever caught yourself wondering, are we giving our kids cell phones too early? What did childhood look like before screens took over? Or when is the appropriate time to give a phone to a child? I'm sitting down with Adam Ferguson, and he's the author of The Things You Have to Do Before I Buy You a Phone. It's a playful, practical guide to bringing back the kind of childhood many of us grew up with, one filled with independence and boredom and problem solving and real life skills. This isn't about being anti technology, it's about making sure our kids experience life before screens take over. We're talking about raising capable kids in a screen saturated world, creating meaningful family memories, and why the phone can wait, but childhood can't. So let's dive in. Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Kitty. Good to be here.
I'm looking forward to picking your brain because technology has been the number one fight we've been having with my oldest lately. So any help we can get, I am open to it. So can you start by telling us how many kids you have, their ages, and where you're from?
Sure. My kids are 18, about to go to college,
Yay.
16, and 13.
Girls
And
or boys? What?
the oldest two are boys. They're my high school upperclassmen, and my girl is Hannah. She's in seventh grade in middle school.
Nice. Right there in it. Ooh, the thought of going to college. Is your son thinking about going away? Does he have any plans yet?
His goal has been, we're based in Columbus, Ohio. He's like, I want to see beyond the Midwest. I want to experience that. And I was like, great, you should, like you're at that age where
Mm-hmm. Spread your
you get a
wings.
4-year adventure out in the world, like fantastic.
Mm-hmm. But it's also scary. As a
Yeah,
mom, I'm like, I already know, like I have to prepare myself that it'll happen, but that's a big
yeah,
change, big change.
that's a big change.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what inspired your book. So what moment or experience made you realize that your kids needed, before you get a phone, a list of things? What inspired that?
Well, you kind of brought it up a second ago when you said like technology and that middle school pre-adolescence period and the arguments. Um, you know, it's kind of trial by fire for a lot of parents,
Oh, yes.
because we just don't have the experiences to fall back on. So much has changed,
Mm-hmm.
just in infrastructure technologically of how these kids are growing up. So they get into trouble in different ways. They go to websites they shouldn't be on. Um, they communicate in writing or with photographs, in ways that will follow them. And, I've seen the roadblocks and the speed bumps happen, not just with my kids, but with their friends, talking to other parents. And it's like we have no foundation at which to pull back on and be like, how did this happen?
Mm-hmm.
So I think watching it, just experience after experience, I was trying to figure out what was missing from their lives, like what they were trading with all of the, neck bent down looking at screens. And and I think
Mhm.
part of it was the loss of imagination or the farming out of imagination to the tech industry, basically. Letting their games, their apps, their platforms sort of imagine for the kid.
Mhm.
And I think it's really important for the kids to just like, experience stillness, experience nothing to do, to work as a group to find out new things to do. And that creates experiences, it creates mistakes and failures, and that's how you learn. And they're learning technological mistakes, but um, they need more kind of real world grit, I think, to be self-reliant and courageous as they become adults.
Totally. I have a rule in my car that they cannot have devices out. Mine don't have their own device yet.
Yeah.
We're like on the cusp of like trying to figure out how to do that. But I've always said like you're not going to use a phone in the car other than like you can put music on. I let my son put the music on, but then I have to
Yep.
like pull it away from him because then he'll start like looking at the lyrics and looking at this. And then there's a video that pops up on Spotify. And he's like, well, what am I supposed to do in the car? I'm like, look outside. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with just looking and doing nothing and like being in your own thoughts or talking to your mother. Like you can do
Right.
that. It's like
Right.
that's so hard for him though. He doesn't know how to like do nothing. Have
These are muscles that are atrophying, you know.
hmm
And it's I think that's part of the reason for this book was to like reignite them, you know.
yeah. Have you seen a big difference from like you have a high schooler going off to college, so he's a lot older than your seventh grader. Has I mean, cell phones, I guess, were around then, but have you seen a difference in
Yeah.
how early they're getting phones? Any of
I think
that?
it's there's a difference in the age. Like, so my son was born August 2007, my oldest.
Okay.
The first iPhone came out June 2007.
Oh, wow.
So that like collision between childhood and technology, I've had like
Yeah.
a front row seat with him. Um, and I think, you know, his sister is 5, 6 years younger. There's a difference between the girls and the boys for sure,
Mm.
how they interact with technology, what they do with it. But also in those 6 years, Silicon Valley got a lot more talented at just embedding themselves, I think, with kids, making it part of, you know, not just how they entertain themselves, but how they communicate, you know, with Snapchat and Snap Maps. And
Mhm. I don't even know what those are.
okay, so
I
I'll
don't
just
know.
really quickly. So Snap Maps is kind of diabolical. Um, you can open up the app and see where all of your friends are, your contacts are. It's
Really?
like basically like GPS or Life
Like
360.
pinpoint where they are?
Yes. So if they're all gathered at a friend's house having a sleepover and you weren't invited, you're finding out through a third party.
That also sounds dangerous. So it's
Right.
only people you're friends with you can see, but like you can like I as a parent would want to know where my kid is, but I don't know if I want all of his friends having access to every location he's at.
They seem to get something out of it. I don't know. I can't tell you what, but they seem to get something out of it.
Kids
Yeah.
these
And
days. Okay, and you talked about how it's different for girls and boys. I could see that being like huge.
yeah, girls, I mean, girls just, they seem to have like a native instinct for kind of social hierarchies
Hmm
and creating networks the the internet and technology is just kind of like built for a lot of that. So also, you know, I think this is kind of a generalization, but I've found, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this too, when you text somebody or if you email them, tone is kind of one of the things that gets lost.
hmm
You might want to express it a certain way and you might hit the wrong emoji or the wrong punctuation. It doesn't come across the way you want it to.
Right.
And I think girls are like really better at communicating emotionally than boys, especially at um, that young age. And so they become really talented at using the tech either with, you know, through Snap or through text to build bonds. Crazy.
It's so funny because my son, so he has now an iPad and we let him use his email to do texting because he doesn't have a phone number yet. So that's kind of been like the first attempt at this. And there's a girl from his class that they've been texting. And I told him when he got texting, I'm like, just so you're aware, this is my iPad and I can read all of your messages. Not because
Yeah,
I don't trust you, but I'm like, I just need to know what's being sent to you because he's not aware of like the trouble he can get in yet. So I'm like,
yeah,
I'm not here to just like, embarrass you, or I just want to know what people are sending you and what you're sending other people so I can read your messages. I don't think he
right,
really thinks I do, but this little girl was sending him messages and I think they're like quote unquote dating.
right.
And so her messages are all complete sentences, perfect punctuation. Hello, Ronan. I would like to know more about you. Can you tell me about some of your interests? And
Go
his
for it.
responses are like, yeah, cool. Like little one
Wow.
word, like anime, ramen. And she'll like give a full on, oh, I love anime also. What are some of your favorite shows? And I'm like,
Yeah,
wow, this is
yeah.
quite different. The boy versus girl texting. Interesting.
You've hit it right on the head. Yeah. And you said you have three boys.
Uh-huh. So the other
Yeah.
two are younger, so I have 8 and 6. So
Okay.
starting to like get interested in it, or like, oh, my friend wants your phone number so that he can message. And then I get this like little 8-year-old blowing up my phone. I'm like, yeah, this isn't working.
Yeah.
This is,
Having a girl was a total shock to my system. So
oh,
it's different.
yikes. And I can't imagine raising a girl in a world with social media like that.
Yeah. I mean, you really have to like, so I think that's part. So like you mentioned tablets and you don't sound like you're a family that has the screens in the back of the minivan where they drop down and like they can.
No, like on road trips, we've brought the iPad with us where they can watch
For
it.
sure. Yeah, and
Which is different.
airplanes,
I was like,
airplanes.
kids, I didn't have this. I had to like entertain myself for 6 hours in the car. Like,
Yeah.
you're lucky
Yeah.
that we let you do this sometimes.
I think there are certain levers where it's okay,
Hmm.
like or on airplanes, like that's a
Airplanes,
blessing,
I used to say I wasn't going to until we started flying. And then I'm like, this is just survival. It's more
Yeah,
pleasant for everyone.
exactly. Exactly. So what I found is there's like an arc, and I'm sure you found the same thing where it's like, when they're young, there's TVs around and some of it's educational, some of it's entertaining, but they can get, something out of that. And then it moves to tablets. And now they've got the ability to sort of navigate their media sphere, whatever they want to experience. And then they get to school and it's smart boards that are replacing chalkboards
Mhm.
and then they come home and their parents are, usually on the phone or on their laptop and it's a surround sound, right? And eventually you get to that pivotal moment where they're like, okay, I want my own phone. I want complete access to the internet. I want independence. And it is like the modern initiation rite, right? It is the coming of age tool. It's like, okay, are you ready to go out into the world on your own? Um, but the fact is that they're just not, like so the goal with the book of giving them 50 tasks to like accomplish before they can get to that rite of passage was to be like, we need to make sure you can do things beyond smashing your thumbs on screens. Like
Yeah.
we need to send you into uncomfortable situations where like one of my favorites is like cooking with my daughter. When she first saw us doing it and gathered an interest, we gave her a paring knife and we put a Brussels sprout in front of her and we were like, go, this is sharp, don't cut yourself. And that became one of the tasks in the book, like cook a full meal for the family
Mhm.
and clean up. Um, because working with fire, working with blades, like these are things that make you a well-rounded human being, and build self-confidence, I think.
Right, right. So I'm always curious. I know every family is totally different. At what age did you guys decide your kids were ready for phones?
Every kid is different too, right?
Hmm.
And I find that the different classes sort of have their different arc. But middle school, pretty
Okay.
much, it was sixth, seventh grade for all of them.
Yeah.
If it with all my kids, it got to the point where they were one of the last ones and feeling very left out. You
Yeah.
know,
We're
they
there.
we used to be like, I'll meet you after school at 3 p.m. and everybody just showed up, but they
Hmm.
now they communicate in real time. I'm going to be 10 minutes late. I'm going over here instead. Meet me over there. So
Hmm.
it's a totally different way of communicating. And we just have to kind of honor that and be like, all right, if you want to have friends, if you want to be around people, this is a tool you're going to need. Uh,
Hmm.
but you got to earn it.
Yeah.
That's my
That's
point.
part of my son's argument. He's like, well, what if, because like he's always said, like, what if practice is ending early? And I've always said, well, your coach is there and he's an adult. Well, he's getting ready to go off to junior high next year. And there's a lot of like, we're going to walk to the in and out after school. Like, how am I going to tell you that? And I'm like, that is a valid point. Like when we were kids, it was like, well, I guess we'll find you at home or we'll find you here. But this is a different world. Like, I can't just say, like, whatever, I'll just find you somewhere. Like, I
Right.
do want to know where you are at all times. Did you start with, because this is something that like we're exploring, we're looking into, did you start with like they have like non-smartphones? So phones that you can text, you can call, but not necessarily get all the apps and
So
that?
I've looked into the light phone and the Bark phone. They're really interesting. They were before my kids.
Okay.
They were not widely popular at the time. We did do the watch thing for a little
Okay.
bit. Um, and it was useful for some things. It was very limited for like things like texting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was a nice like training wheel
Okay.
moment, I think.
I know
And at
because
least it gave us GPS visibility into where they were.
right, right. Because that's kind of like the first step is like, okay, you need a phone so that you can let us know where you are. Like, I totally understand that.
Right.
I think for him though, he's got the FOMO because everyone else has phones, and after practice, they're all showing each other their games, and he's like, I don't have
Right.
one. So I am sensitive to that. I told him that. I'm like, I understand that everyone else has one, and we're like the mean parents, and it's so uncool. And so I'm sensitive to wanting to start with a phone that actually looks like what everyone else has, so you don't feel like you're left out. But I don't know.
Yep.
I haven't found the perfect tool yet.
Right.
Okay, I want to hear some of your examples of items in your book. Like, do you recommend your book? Like, hey, if you're going to get a phone, you need to complete all 50 of these, and then that'll be like your initiation. Is that how your your book is designed?
So the 50 things were really kind of thought through in kind of, I would say, three or four groups. The first were like sort of really practical skills, basic life skills.
Okay,
Like, Um,
like the
do the
cooking.
yeah, cooking a meal for the family, do the laundry for a week. Um,
Oh,
you
I
know,
love that one. Like,
yeah, like well,
check that off. Yeah.
get used to how the washer and dryer work.
Yes.
Um, learn all the steps, take it out, fold it, bring it to people's rooms. Like that's part of it. You're contributing to the
Hmm.
household, right?
Yeah.
And these are things you're going to need later, by the way. And what's another one? Like cleaning the bathroom, like a lot of like cooking and cleaning and just basic house
Hmm.
maintenance. That was basic life skills. Then there were more advanced life skills, like learn to light a fire and maintain it. These are things and it's dangerous. There's a little bit of danger
Hmm.
involved. Um, uh, One of my favorites was sending the kids into the grocery store to do the weekly shopping.
Let's see what they come back with.
Well,
Do they
exactly.
have to
And
stick to the list you gave them, or did they
yeah,
create their own list?
there is a list, and I'm out in the parking lot, waiting. But like their job is to go and figure things out and find things. And
Hmm.
if they need help reaching a shelf, asking somebody, like don't be scared. These are
Right.
all in the supermarket. And if they came back with an unsanctioned box of donuts, it's okay. Um, But yeah, so that was the more advanced life skills. And then there were like some more spiritual things where it was like, go on a weekend road trip with me, um, just the two of us. And to me, that's kind of, there's a little bit of church in the car when you're driving for a long period and you got the music and conversations and, interesting destinations. Um, One of them was actually visit a house of worship. You may or may not be religious, but a lot of people are, and a lot of people have questions about the idea of God and what it means for life. And so go to a Christian church, go to could be a temple, go to a mosque, and just sit and listen, and come back and with the parent. Most
Hmm.
of the things are done like with the parent together.
Hmm.
And then the conversations after, super interesting. So it's a lot of like, I liked it for the bonding activities too.
Hmm. Some of it too just reminds me of like my own childhood. Like I was raised going camping and helping to cook at home and doing chores. Like I feel like our kids don't do as many chores as I used to have to do. But it kind of brings back that nostalgia of growing up in the 80s and 90s. And like I look back at my childhood, I'm like, I had a great childhood. And I wish sometimes my kids had some of the stuff that they don't really have anymore because it's like there's devices everywhere. Or like my husband
Yeah.
and I were talking about, like they'll never understand the joy of going to Blockbuster on a Friday and picking out
Uh-huh.
that one new release. Like it's like, what's on Netflix tonight, and skipping through YouTube videos, not even finishing them. I'm like, they don't know what it feels like to like, this
Exactly.
movie's due in a day. We've got to finish it. So I don't know.
Rewind
This
it.
list kind of brings back the nostalgia of like childhood.
Well, what's funny is I've got kids, two of my boys have had phones for a couple of years and they've gone through the ups and downs of it. And they're mature enough now when we talk about, my wife and I talk about growing up in the 90s and the 80s, they actually really envy a lot of the stories.
Hmm.
They're like, oh my God, that sounds amazing.
Right.
Like being out in the world with nobody knowing where you are, being out in the
No one can
world
film
with,
you.
yeah, nobody can film you or document you, or
Mhm.
like you can say things and not worry about it coming back to you.
Mhm.
You can make mistakes, you know. So there is a little bit of nostalgia on the list, but we kind of the I feel like the last generation to grow up without the internet kind of hit a sweet spot in a lot of ways.
Right. Do your kids ever choose to do like a technology detox or like a break? Like I know some kids, I have a friend, her daughter, I think, went to like ASB camp or something. And at that camp, they were like, no one's allowed to bring cell phones. And she came home and she was like, Mom, like I didn't feel as anxious. Like I actually
Right.
felt better not having it. But then you get home to real world and it's like back to I need to know when my soccer practice is and I need to know
Yeah.
this. Do your kids
Yes.
ever purposely like take little breaks or have you had to implement any?
So the boys formed this club called an Unplugged Club,
Oh, I
where they
love
spend
that.
they actually the purpose of the club is to not be connected, to do things without connection.
Hmm.
Um, but they also speak to middle schools, and the middle school kids really love hearing from the high school boys, and
Yeah.
just, that point of view. So when my daughter actually, like, she was in the auditorium when they came to speak
Oh,
that
cute.
night, all of their friends put the phones in the middle of the room and like tried to detach
How
themselves from it. So
see
yeah,
how long you can go. And I mean, that's something like I need to try in front of them also because I'm
yeah,
like, just like you guys are addicted, I've gotten addicted to like, I don't have my phone with me, like run into the house. I'm like, I can't even like go to the grocery store without
right,
like, I have to go back and go get it because my list
right.
is on my phone. Like
Well,
it
and I
is
think
important.
that's fair, Katie. Like, technical fluency, like, is not going anywhere. Like,
Hmm.
we're going to need it, and our
Yeah.
kids are going to need it to be successful in this world. But I just think the pendulum, the swinging pendulum from like physical life on this side to digital life on this side, is just swung way too far over to digital.
Hmm.
And I think our job as parents is to be like really conscious of that and participate it and correct it for them a little bit.
Right.
There's The state is not regulating anything yet for kids under 18. They're not saying like, okay, we've done this experiment, we've made a huge mistake. We've seen the depressions and the anxiety things spiking up, and
Hmm.
we're going to fix this. They haven't done anything yet because for whatever reason. So we kind of have to lean in and create our own
Right.
systems.
And I think we're seeing that coming though, where parents are more aware. So I have nephews who are same age, they're about to graduate from high school. And I remember when they were babies, it was like, look at how cool they can find the videos themselves. Look at how, and it was like so fun to watch them. Like, I can't believe they know how to like navigate the screen. Well, as the years have gone on, like now when I was raising my kids, they start going like, oh, well, maybe we should limit it before age 2, like that was kind of like the newer thought. So I think we're starting to see how
Yes.
they're affecting it. I mean, not that like they did anything wrong. Like it was new and fresh and like what a cool thing to do. But I think we're starting to see more. Like I'm lucky that I'm raising my kids where there is more awareness. And you're hearing
Correct.
people say, wait till 8th grade and here are other phone options. I think it's Australia. Is it Australia that came out with recently?
Yep.
Like,
No
is it
social
social?
media under 16.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is social media something that your kids are pretty into, or are the boys like,
No,
what
they've
is
kind
it
of,
about the phones that they really like? Because I think my son, it's more like playing games on the phone is
yeah,
what he
yeah.
really wants. He keeps telling me, I need a phone so I can get a hold of you. I'm like, what if your phone doesn't have games on it? And he's like, well, that's not cool, mom. I'm like, okay, well, if your argument is you needed to get a hold of me, then you don't need games on it. But
Yeah. No,
yeah.
yeah. Social media, at least the meta platforms,
Hmm.
don't really figure into the boys' lives at all.
Okay.
In fact, I don't even know if they have profiles or accounts. I know that they have
Okay.
TikTok profiles, but I think social media doesn't really I don't see TikTok as a social media platform as much as an entertainment platform, a
Okay.
short form entertainment platform. Um, they do use Snapchat, but it's mostly as a communication vehicle, less
Okay.
see what everybody's doing. Um, so for them, it hasn't figured in. My daughter's really not allowed on anything yet, so we haven't really come up against the hard stuff there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the YouTube too. I'm worried that he's just gonna like scroll and scroll and
Yeah,
never get off of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But,
You
like,
talk a lot about boredom. What do you think? Why is it healthy to be bored? Which kids nowadays, I feel like they rarely feel bored.
Yeah, I mean, for me, all my best ideas happen in the shower. They happen on long bike rides. Um, you know, it's when the mind has time to detach and connect dots and make sense of things. It's almost like happening in the background. You don't even know it.
Hmm.
Happens when we dream a lot too. And I think if you can, you got to be able to create these like decompression, refresh periods. When you're into fitness, they've got these, there's periods of I forget what they call it, but it's like rest and revitalization and allowing the muscles to do their thing. Like the
Hmm.
brain needs the same activity. The brain needs to decompress. And yeah, I think that's where innovation happens. I think that's where progress is made. Um, and if you're just being fed a constant diet of digital content, like, and if honestly, if that's like your escape hatch every time you feel uncomfortable or awkward,
Yeah.
one of the tasks in the book is to, find somebody, probably at school that you don't know and introduce yourself. Just like uncut, overcome that discomfort, you know,
Right.
because I think a lot of what I see is kids when they get that discomfort, they just dip right into their phone.
Right. Right.
And that's a dangerous that's a dangerous thing for community, just in
Hmm.
this
Yeah.
time.
I was talking to someone who knows a college professor, and they were saying that some kids are having a really hard time being like in person, like doing in person college because they just don't know how to socially interact. And part of it was this generation was stuck during COVID at home
Yeah,
for a very long time. So that made it a lot harder. But I think
yeah,
too, when you go to a doctor's appointment or you stand in line somewhere, you see like instantly people just grab their phones so they don't have to just stand and look around and be
right,
awkward. I think
right.
that's totally. Um, Out of the 50 challenges, which ones tend to surprise parents the most?
There's two.
Okay. I
Um,
think I know one of them, but I'll like,
one of them is learn to throw a punch. Um,
oh God.
I think the re the reason I had that in there was because and I kind of stress this in the book. It's not about um, it's about just defense. Being able to defend yourself. I've got a daughter, and I'd love to raise her as a little warrior. You know, uh, but you never want to get stuck in a situation where you know you don't feel that you have the skills or the capabilities to get out of it.
Okay.
So just like the ability to like square off, go through the muscle memory of like how that works, and not to be afraid, you know,
Okay.
that you can tap into something. Um, the second was break a minor law.
That's what I was
Um,
thinking. I
I
saw
think
that one and I'm like, oh gosh.
I think a lot of kids are told, especially in the young years when we're so worried about them making mistakes and hurting themselves, it's like do it this way, don't go in the street.
Hmm.
Um, and I and again, we talked about like, where progress and innovation come from. They do come from being bored and thinking. They also come from breaking the rules. Um,
Testing boundaries. Yeah.
Questioning authority, wondering how, like, what if I tried it this way? Well, I'm not supposed to. Yeah, but it could be a better way. And I think a little bit of rebellion is good for kids. I'm again, I kind of put a lot of parameters around don't do anything stupid, don't hurt anybody, et cetera, et
Hmm.
cetera. But look for a law that either your school made or your parents made, um, that you think doesn't make sense.
Did you have them like get permission first to break this law, or they just did it and you found out later? Like
Um,
what was the example that your kids did?
so
I'm
it's
just
funny,
trying to
like,
think like what will my son come up with?
oh yeah. When you give this book to kids, the first thing that they do is they start crossing things off. They're like, I've done this one, I've done this one, I've done
Mm.
this one. So break a minor law, they were like, done it.
Oh no. You're like,
Um,
wait a minute, wait a minute.
Yeah, I think it's probably things like, coming home later than you're supposed to be because
Okay.
you
Okay.
disagreed with what your parents thought was a good curfew for coming home for dinner or something. Um, yeah, or at school, like, I think there's a lot of like unjust rules in school. It could be like sitting still or, maybe not
Mm,
going as, so anyway, it's up to the kid to figure out. But I do say in that one, there will be consequences.
okay.
That's part of this,
Okay.
so get ready.
That's my boys the other day. Just I'm telling them, I'm like, I am so sick of neighbors coming to my door. But they were ding dong ditching on the street because I think it's so fun. And I had even told them they had like done it right in front of me. And I said, the neighbors are going to catch you and they're going to come to my door and they're going to tell you to stop. Like they know who you are and where you live. And they did it anyways. And the neighbor came and knocked on the door and said, your son was kicking my door. I'm like, oh my God. But it was in the long run, just a good learning lesson. I mean, it's a like, yes, it annoyed the neighbors, but it's also kind of a rite of a passage for kids to go and do that.
Right.
And my husband had to remind them, go to a street where they don't know you, you guys. Like, why would you do it where we live across the street from them? But it was kind of like it made me think about that rule. Like it is kind of breaking the law, like breaking the rules, doing something fun, but also know, like, hey, the neighbor knocked on our door and you got in trouble. So
Right.
remember
Exactly.
that next
Like,
time.
if you did it 6 times in a row at the same house, then the consequences, now you have the reputation as the kid who,
Right.
relentlessly ding dong ditches. And do you want
Hmm.
that? So, it's your call. Do you want that?
Yeah. I love that.
So,
What do you say to families that might be really busy and don't have the time to realistically get through all 50 of these?
um, you know, I if you do it well, it takes about 6 months.
Okay, that is
Um,
good to know.
yeah, and I think I don't think the decision to give a kid a phone should be an immediate or taken lightly. Like
Hmm.
spend some time with it, and I think the kids want to rush it for sure. The kids
Hmm.
want to speed through it, and they'll bug you. One of the things in there is like play me in a game of basketball to 21, um, and you got to find time for that.
Hmm.
Hey dad, let's go play basketball. Okay, we'll go find a park, and it's got to be a Saturday or Sunday, because I work during the week, and the park's got to be open, and we got to, make sure we have an hour to play to a full game of 21. And um, but it does, if it's fun, you might do it again. You know,
Right, right. What are some things that you noticed? Any changes in kids after they've finished these?
sure, for sure. Less fear of the unknown. A lot more self-reliance, being able to like, no, I can figure this out, because they've become a jack or a Jill of all trades. They've tried all these things. They've dealt with the unknown, so that's really important. A little more courage, um, and I would say creativity too.
Love that. My son really wanted to make, he saw a YouTube video on how to make these like Oreo sushi rolls. And
Hmm.
so for my birthday, he's like, oh, we're going to make these. We're going to make these. And I was finally like, okay, fine. And instead of like looking over his shoulder doing this, I said, here are the supplies, make it for me. And I just went in here and started doing work. Later on, I found out that he put the blender away without washing it. And a week later,
Yeah.
there was like mold all over.
Oh. Ah,
So I was like, I love that you did this and you felt proud of yourself. But I'm like, but also let's learn that we have to clean up afterwards.
so last night, my daughter decided to make churros, having never done it before.
Ooh, fun.
I
That's
left her alone.
ambitious.
Yeah, I don't think she knew how ambitious because it didn't work out the way she wanted it to. And I came down this morning and there's a bunch of dishes in the sink, so she had to clean them today.
Yeah. This was like, see this mold in here? Yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna get that out before we make a smoothie. Yeah, this is great. Ugh. Ugh. But learning lessons. I love this. I'm getting this book and I'm gonna make my son do all 50 before he gets his phone. I think this is a good incentive too, like to have something that you really want, you have to work to achieve it. You have to work to get something and earn
Yeah,
it.
exactly. That's right.
Hmm.
For these big initiation coming rites of passage, you should have to earn it,
Hmm.
you know? And plus, like, in the middle of this winter storm that we're dealing with, a lot of people have been talking about, they're concerned about the power goes out. The power
Yeah.
goes out.
What do
You
you
can't,
do?
you can't charge your phone. You can't press the button for DoorDash. You have to
Mm-hmm.
figure things out. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's a great 50 tests.
Right. And I could see so much like self-confidence and just self-esteem come from like my son loves fires, but he has been caught like messing with candles. We were at a family party and we tried to make a fire where it wasn't safe.
Mhm.
So for him to learn like this is how to do it safely and
Yeah, you can do
I
this.
can put you in charge of this if you do it
Right.
safely. I love that. I
Yeah.
love it. Where can we find your book?
So I have it. It's on Amazon. If you go to your local bookstore and ask them for it, they'll be able to um, order it for you. But it's
Okay.
also at beforethephone.com, beforethephone.com.
That's your website, but we can also get it on Amazon.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, for sure.
Perfect. Well, I'm adding it to the cart today. We're getting
Oh,
it.
awesome. That's
Well,
great.
thank you so much for coming on and helping out a fellow parent who is going through this new world with our kids.
Yeah, I think this is one of the most critical narratives for us as parents to kind of pay attention to and to participate in. So thank you for having me. Thanks for giving me the time to talk about it. It was great.
Well, this conversation was such a powerful reminder that childhood isn't something we're supposed to rush through or outsource to a screen, which sometimes feels almost impossible. Adam's book isn't just a checklist, it's an invitation to slow down, connect with our kids, and let them build confidence, grit, and independence along the way. If this episode got you thinking differently about phones, boredom, or how your kid spends their time, I highly recommend checking out The Things You Have to Do Before I Buy You a Phone and starting the list together with your kids. And as always, if this episode resonated with you, share it with your fellow mom friends, leave me a review, and come back next week for another Momversation. And until next week, I do want to remind you that everyone burns their first pancake, so just keep flipping.